All right, episode 2 here of Whispers from the Woodshed. This one's based on the word compassion and how it plays with reality here. Compassion, in my experience and my personal belief, is like compassion can be two things at the same time. It needs to be hard and it needs to be soft. Compassion can be pat on the back and a kick in the ass. Because if you apply it just one way, it almost loses its value. And if you apply it the other way, it almost loses its entire purpose in its concept. So anyways, I'll explore this. I wrote this towards the end of my stay in my rehab. Helped me get through a lot of my personal stuff and try to find some understanding in life. And a lot of these concepts and words were thrown around in there, and I've heard them through my life, and I've had to kind of come up with my own conclusions, as you might have seen. But here's my interpretation of the word compassion. So this one's called Where Compassion Overlaps, episode 2 in Whispers from the Woodshed. So compassion, a noun, a fellow feeling or sorrow for the sufferings of another, usually a warmer feeling than pity, and compassionate, inclined to pity or mercy. Now that's a powerful word, incredibly common, yet it may contend misused and or misunderstood. It can be applied to self and others both. The term mercy is interesting here, as is pity. It is a gift to someone, an olive branch, a glass of water in the desert of life. Now self-compassion. My interpretation of this is more muddled than I'd like to believe. It would be the ability to look inward and give yourself a break. Understand where the feelings and needs are coming from, or even just allowing the time to explore the root causes of them. Take those things and apply them to a problem, situation, or relationship. Find the pain if there, or motivation behind an action or urgency. Allow the breath and space to not react or behave in a manner that would activate or disintegrate. It is also the ability to look at yourself and instigate change. The ability to say enough is enough, time for change. To see the situation and recognize the state of affairs, the effects and effects. The pity for your situation, mercy and judgment, but the strength to change yourself. Choose growth or expansion, and not allow yourself to wallow. Now, it is beneficial to a certain extent because you can gain insight through this process, but it cannot become your default state. Not allow yourself to destroy yourself or to feel you are letting it happen. The tone of compassion, let's say, is also important. It can be soft when appropriate, to uplift, to encourage, and to empower. It also must be absolute at times, firm, commanding, and unyielding, to get you out of the pit, to wake yourself up. Claw out of the sinking stand and burst through the walls in front of you. Light the fire in your chest and pull your head out of your own ass. Recognize your failing or weaknesses and commit to destroying them. Remember your capabilities. Now, compassion for others is very similar, but has an extra variable, the others themselves. We don't know their past. We don't know their motivations. We don't see or hear what they do. We have to consider this in our application now. Start somewhere, gauge, observe, and change it for better or worse. You also then have to use your self-compassion to weigh, place on the scales, the perceived ability, needs, and beliefs of the other person, and weigh those against your own ability, needs, and beliefs. Difference being you have much more awareness of your own and can only assume or guess at the others. This has to be fluid though, but not equal or fair. If the equation begins to change, you must observe it and track. Pity here is almost unproductive. To feel sorry for someone in my eyes is to dismiss or accept their weakness. It feels hopeless and almost condemnatory, assigning them a fate and not remembering their potential. Mercy, I feel, is much more applicable. It is the balance. Recognition of where you are, your abilities, needs, beliefs, and wants lie. Adjusting them to be within parameters of the current understanding. If attacked, to act with this understanding. If approached for something, not to judge as yourself, but with the other information at hand. The ask may be foolish or simple to you, but absolutely impossible to the one in the need asking. Both principles can then be applied in the opposite manner. To recognize that this person may be limiting themselves, much like you can be limiting yourself. Maybe the entire equation has the wrong parameters, assumptions, and variables. In your observation, the equation is unbalanced, allowing more space for someone else, or taking too much for yourself. The person may not be as capable as you thought, or you recognize you aren't as capable in the situation. In this frame, what would be compassionate? Let the equation fall out of balance or correct it. Stop the dam from bursting and getting out of hand, or open another door to relieve the pressure. Ignoring it can't help and ends in destruction. It is not your place to, but you can certainly open this compassion and extend it for growth. Knowing what you can do or take, allow this other person to face the fear or weakness and have a result safer than elsewhere. able to control your outcome and manner to guide towards growth. Is it compassionate to spar with someone less skilled than yourself? Yes, if you use mercy. You can absolutely destroy them. You can also choose to teach them, rein them in if they step over the line, but foster the growth through experience. The only way to grow is to experience. This must be calculated, though, as getting lost in the process allows for mistakes, danger, and injury. The overlap, though, is tricky here, especially when trying to improve multiple aspects simultaneously. One party must maintain level, collected contemplation. If not, the chaos that follows is unpredictable at best. This is where rules, expectations, or even boundaries are needed to guide. If not, the mutual outcome is questionable, and the benefit near mythical. Compassion can then, as it seems to be, both soft, understanding. Compassion can then, as it seems to be both soft, understanding, but also ironclad and definitive. Warm but fierce, a blanket in the cold, but made of holes. The tool for some things and times, but needs to be applied properly to be effective. The application is individual, dependent on numerous things, as is the word itself. Different to each person and able to be confused or misconstrued, overvalued and underapplied, and vice versa. There is no right way or wrong way, just a way to apply it. Not necessary either, as it is a construct or description of your perception. Duality yet again, blessing and a curse. Given when unnecessary, one may be offended at being undervalued or incapable. Applied too heavily, though, leaves yourself open to offense, injury, and surprise. Optional in style, soft or firm, yet fundamentally the same. A blanket of wool or pine needles and boughs, pushing you to comfort and change. Individual in its application and reception. Now choose wisely, but don't fear it. Fluid and positive in the long run. It is a term of endearment, but not necessarily kindness, and use it as such. Now, compassion is, I think, essential to success in life. Without it, you'll never win. It's impossible to be able to find something for yourself without compassion that would be considered a victory. And it can be looked at for others in that same way, right? Without compassion, you don't understand how someone views something, because compassion is, to me, being able to take all of those pieces into effect, right? Put yourself in that person's shoes. Think about what they might be feeling, what their perception of a problem is, what their experiences in life have been, where they've come from, where they plan on going, are all different variables in the application of that word. Because of that, it can be very slippery. People use it as like almost a demeaning term, right? You should be more compassionate about this. Well, compassion is two things at the same time. It is hard and it's warm. It's cold, but it's soft, right? That the mercy and the pity thing, that really played into it. And when I looked up the word originally, I wasn't sure whether my interpretation of the word was, out to lunch, or my experience had led me to a different understanding of the word. But when I looked it up and I saw mercy and pity, I looked those each up individually, and they both kind of landed where I thought. But to have them included in compassion was an interesting development anyways. So mercy, I think, is going to be another exploration, right? And same as pity, because they're both entirely opposite, I think, right? Mercy is knowing your own will and knowing your own abilities, but not putting someone through that. Pity, though, is looking down upon somebody. It's looking at yourself as upper in experience or life or potential or whatever else, and casting that down as a shadow on somebody, right? I feel sorry for that guy. He should, what a sad state of affairs. Listen, I get it. Shitty things happen. Shitty people exist, and shitty situations are out there. But that application of that sorry feeling for somebody, that pity, because the only difference in that guy and somebody who's made $1 million is the guy who made $1 million believed he could and just went and did it, right? There's a whole ton of other variables in there, right? You mix addictions in, mental health, spiritual blindness. There's all kinds of different things that can happen, and people get taken down all kinds of different trails. And I think that's where compassion needs to come in and be used appropriately when it's needed, not all the time, because it's not always the right answer. But anyways, some more rambling from me.